Good evening, this is TVS Nightline. We begin with this story. Malaysia has developed multiple contingency plans to secure the national oil and gas supply amid global market volatility stemming from the conflict in West Asia. Deputy Prime Minister Dato' Amar Fadilah Yusof says current domestic reserves remain sufficient and are expected to meet national demand until approximately May this year. He also assures that Petronas has identified alternative supply sources to ensure domestic stability should global supply chains face further disruption.
So far kita boleh bertahan. Kita dari segi untuk gas dan apa, kita masih ada bekalan sehingga bulan 5. Tapi alternatif Petronas sudah pun dapat semua alternatif. Termasuklah kita bekalan kita alhamdulillah. Kalau apa kebanyakannya daripada Australia dan sebagainya tidak sangat melalui. Walaupun ada yang melalui Hormuz, tapi kita juga melihat alternatif yang lain.
While Petronas is currently bound by existing export agreements, the government has not ruled out drastic measures if the situation deteriorates. This includes the possibility of restricting exports to prioritize domestic sufficiency as a last resort.
Masa ini memang Petronas memang ada komitmen sebab perjanjian dan sebagainya. Tapi kalau terpaksa kita akan mempertimbangkan banyak keadaan lah. Termasuklah kalau kita terpaksa sekatkan ekspor, itu adalah langkah yang terakhir. Langkah yang terakhir sebab kita masih terikat dengan perjanjian.
Discussions are currently underway between TABUNG HAJI and several airlines to keep HAJJ flight costs from skyrocketing amid the current global market uncertainty. Deputy Prime Minister Dato' Amar Fadilah Yusof says the move is vital in ensuring reducing the impact of rising global logistics costs on prospective Malaysian HAJJ pilgrims.
Maknanya bila krisis, harga minyak naik, cost insurans pun naik, maka logistik cost akan naik, termasuklah kapal terbang, pengangkutan laut, semuanya akan naik. Dan ini akan menjejaskan bukan sahaja dari segi harga barangan, terutama yang kita import, sudah pasti akan naik. Dan dalam negeri pun akan naik. Sebab perjalanan antara Sabah Sarawak, sebab kapal terbang naik, sudah pasti ada surcharge minyak dalam penerbangan dalam negeri dan juga luar negara.
However, Fadilah says cost increases remain a possibility and will depend on how the current conflicts develop. Any final decision will be announced once negotiations are concluded. Meanwhile, he says the government is closely monitoring developments in the US-Israel-Iran war, which is already affecting the global economy.
Sebab itu kita mengharapkan Perdana Menteri juga telah dihubungi oleh pemimpin di peringkat Teluk untuk menjadi mediator supaya dapat broding, dan diharapkan dan mendoakan supaya konflik di Teluk itu dapat diselesaikan. Dan sekurang-kurangnya kalau dapat dibenarkan, dibukakan perairan Hormuz itu supaya transportation akan dapat berjalan dan sebagainya.
The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living has officially listed 23 essential items under the festive season maximum price scheme for Hari Raya Aidilfitri in Sarawak. Effective from today until March 28th, the listing was determined based on current supply costs, weather conditions and regional wage rates to ensure fair market pricing.
27 item keseluruhan di mana untuk negeri Sabah dan Sarawak 23 barang-barang yang keperluan yang dikenal pasti. Khusus untuk negeri Sarawak seperti kepak ayam, daging lembu import, dan yang lain-lain. Untuk wilayah Persekutuan Labuan 22 item dan untuk Semenanjung 24 item. Jadi KPDN akan memantau dijangka untuk negeri Sarawak sebanyak 2,000 pemantauan ya sepanjang 15 hari skim harga maksimum ini.
Deputy Minister Dato' Dr. Fuzia Saleh reminds traders that all controlled items must be clearly marked with paying price tags. Failure to comply carries heavy penalties. Individuals face fines of up to 100,000 ringgit or 3 years imprisonment for overcharging, while companies can be fined up to 500,000 ringgit. Failure to display paying tags can result in fines of up to 10,000 ringgit for individuals and 20,000 ringgit for companies. Consumers are urged to report violations via WhatsApp, the KPTN call center, or the Easy Adu mobile application as shown on screen.
The federal government is stepping up cooperation with Sarawak authorities to track and crack down on illegal diesel smuggling operations across the state. Deputy Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Dr. Fuzia Salis says close monitoring is crucial given Sarawak's unique diesel requirements compared to other states. She adds that with the ministry working with several agencies, including the police and the Maritime Enforcement Agency, to curb leakages along Sarawak's borders and coastlines.
Kerajaan negeri akan kerjasama kerajaan negeri akan kerjasama dengan KPTN untuk memantau, sebab KPTN akan buat kerja kita dan kerajaan negeri juga akan turut serta, namun untuk barang-barang perlu subsidi resale masih diteruskan.
This enforcement drive follows a formal request by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim on Friday for Sarawak's assistance in securing regional borders. The Prime Minister notes that lower diesel prices in Sabah and Sarawak compared to neighbouring territories have created high incentives for smuggling activities.
A 25-year-old man went missing after a wooden boat carrying 5 people capsized in the Rajang River yesterday. The Sarawak Fire and Rescue Department says the incident occurred at about 7 p.m. while the group was travelling from Rumah Bunsi at Kampung Atas Kubu along Jalan Sri Balai.
The boat was on its way to a barge docking area at a wharf near the Kapit Night Street Market when it was believed to have capsized after being hit by strong waves. According to a statement, 4 occupants managed to swim to safety. However, one of them, identified as Brando Jawi Mamba from Sungai Katipas in Song, could not be found after the incident. A search and rescue operation was launched this afternoon, with personnel from the Kapit station heading to the location by aluminium boat. The victim remains missing as of this reporting.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday said that U.S. forces had hit Iran's Karg Island, its biggest oil export hub, and obliterated military targets while sparing its energy facilities. Iranian media confirmed there was no damage to oil infrastructure on the island.
Trump had threatened in the social media post to target oil infrastructure on the island if Tehran continues to block the strategic Strait of Hormuz. Iran has in turn threatened to target U.S.-linked oil infrastructure. According to Iranian media, the U.S. operation tried to damage the army's defenses, the Joshan naval base, the airport control tower, and the helicopter hangar of the Iran Continental Shelf Oil Company. Karg Island, a scrubby stretch of land in the northern Gulf, around 30 kilometers off the Iranian mainland, handles roughly 90% of Iran's crude exports. Meanwhile, Iran hit a major United Arab Emirates energy installation hours after the U.S. struck Iran's oil hub. Clouds of dark black smoke were seen coming from Fujairah, which is home to a major port where Iranian attacks have already targeted an oil storage and trading hub. The port is also home to a major oil export terminal. Since the beginning of the war, Iran has methodically targeted the Gulf's major energy installations from Kuwait to Oman.
As the Philippines takes the helm of ASEAN for 2026, the regional bloc is facing a full plate of crises. From Myanmar's internal strife to the risk of global spillover from the Middle East conflict, the message from ASEAN is clear: diplomacy over force. In this RT International exclusive interview, ASEAN Secretary General Dr. Kao Kim Horn says the bloc is positioning itself as a buffer against a world increasingly leaning toward unilateral military action.
Amidst rising tensions between global powers and the fallout of the Middle East conflict, Dr. Kao reaffirms that ASEAN's survival depends on a world governed by rules and not rockets.
The position of ASEAN has been very consistent, that we support an open, rule-based multilateralism, especially the global institutions like the United Nations and the World Trade Organization. As I just alluded earlier, that we should not use force or forces in resolving differences. I think diplomacy is very important. Diplomacy and negotiations.
That commitment to diplomacy is being tested in the South China Sea. After decades of negotiation, the Secretary General says a binding code of conduct is finally within reach, with a hard deadline set for the end of 2026.
But in this case, of course, there's a lot of discussions, a lot of negotiations, and we have come a long way. And I believe that right now we need to continue to accelerate and finalize it. And hopefully before the end of this year. And I still have the confidence that the COC is within our reach.
On Myanmar, the bloc remains firm on its wait-and-see approach, insisting that the legitimacy of the country's political process rests solely with its people.
I would say that we should know if the election brings peace and stability, non-violence, national reconciliation. I think this is very important. But if the election does not bring peace and stability and genuine national election, for that matter, I think that's something that we have to think about.
Cuba's communist authorities on Friday began a prisoner release negotiated with the Vatican and confirmed that talks were underway with the U.S. amid intense pressure from President Donald Trump. The Justicia 11J rights group said it had been able to confirm the release of 2 people jailed for taking part in major anti-government protests on July 11, 2021. Cuba said that it would release 51 prisoners after talks with the Holy See, which has in the past acted as mediator between Havana and Washington.
Bueno, yo siempre he pensado que los pueblos somos hermanos, que no tenemos necesidad de provocar una guerra, que mientras que existan las palabras, todo se puede lograr, y que si están las negociaciones para que todo nos vaya bien, esta asfixia que nos está provocando el gobierno de los Estados Unidos se puede evitar.
Havana has described the prisoner releases as a goodwill gesture to the Vatican. Trump has said Cuba will be next on his agenda after Iran and the U.S. overthrow of Cuba's top ally, Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. The Republican leader has placed the impoverished island under U.S. oil blockade, strangling its fuel supply on the basis of what he called the extraordinary threat posed by Cuba to the United States.
Those were the updates on TVS Nightline. Thanks for watching and have a good night.